car insurance, consider Geico. Been doing it 75 years. Geico.com. When you think of bad contracts in sports, you generally think of baseball, where you sign, a guy to a 10-year contract. Giancarlo Stanton for the Yankees was a horrible contract in Miami. It's slightly better in New York, but it's a terrible contract. Robinson Cano, 10 years. He's already in trouble. You got like 8 years left. NBA, you can get trapped by horrible contracts. But in football, you really can't. I mean, even Tom Brady could be cut tomorrow. You take a little cap hit for a year. But in the NFL, you rarely get trapped with a terrible contract. This is why the NFL is the sport of hope. It has always been the sport of hope. In the NBA, if you don't have stars and you have bad contracts, you're done. 7 years, bye-bye. In baseball, don't have the money, not big revenue, 2 bad contracts, bye-bye, you're done. NFL, you can cut anybody and start over. You can replace 40% of your roster year for year and your coaching staff completely and your GM. It's the sport of hope. There is one NFL team, though, that is trapped. It's the Raiders. Jon Gruden, 10 years, $100 million. This is the poorest NFL franchise it is in terms of revenue. They cannot boot him after a year, pay him $90 million, and then go pay another $5 for another guy. They can't even pay top dollar for coordinators now. They are trapped. I don't know if it's going to work, but they don't have any options. It has to work. Read the tea leaves. Many people believe they passed on Khalil Mack because they couldn't afford him. Now they're looking to trade Amari Cooper. They don't know where they're playing next year. Vegas, eventually, we are pretty sure, they are the rare NFL team. And it all comes down to this. Why are they trapped? Because sports does something that is fascinating. Pro sports are overwhelmingly run, driven, played by men. And when you lose, it saps you of your dignity. This was the team that was the team of the decade in the 70s and 80s. Then 10 to 15 years of losing. Do you think Bob Kraft would ever give Belichick a 10-year deal? Oh, God, no. But the poorest franchise would? You think Jerry Jones has given anybody a 10-year deal? Stan Kroenke? No. This is what we see time and time again from people with low self-esteem in sports. The Buffalo Bills. The quarterback has a good September. Let's sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. A huge deal. Oakland Raiders, Jon Gruden. I remember Gruden. A huge 10-year deal. I mean, Baker Mayfield right now has more interceptions than touchdowns, 55% completion rate, 72 quarterback rating, getting outplayed by Sam Darnold, and they'd sign him to a 10-year contract right now in Cleveland. He's average so far. Sports for men in pro sports. It is remarkable how desperation creeps in. The best organizations let the top players go, are reluctant to sign even great players and coaches to long deals. Buffalo, Ryan Fitzpatrick had a good September. Let's give him a lifetime contract. Jon Gruden's been out of the sport 10 years. Let's sign him forever. Man, it's not hard to figure out. There are 4 or 5 organizations in pro sports in America, Cleveland Browns, Buffalo Bills, New York Mets, LA Clippers, that I've watched my entire life make moves out of desperation, a lack of self-esteem, lose utter confidence. And the Raiders used to be, quote, commitment to excellence. But they are trapped, and it rarely happens in the NFL. And it happens a lot in the NBA and regularly in baseball. Sometimes I imagine in hockey, but in the NFL, it almost never happens. None. At least the Bills could eventually get rid of Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is amazing. This is utterly amazing. You are watching the worst team in the league, giving players away. Report now that Amari Cooper's on the trading block. It has to work. They have no options. There is no way out here. It's staggering what desperation does and losing does to otherwise seemingly very smart, successful men. Saps them of their dignity, lose all common sense. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
So, Colin, we knew the Chiefs-Patriots game last night was going to be a fun one. We were excited about it all last week. There were lots of big plays late and one of the most entertaining games of the season.
Yeah.
But a disappointing moment came with 3 minutes left. Tyreek Hill scored his 3rd touchdown of the game to tie things up at 40.
Yeah.
And then he ran full speed into the wall and met some of Boston's finest.
Oh, God.
They delivered him several middle fingers, and someone also threw a beer in his face.
Oh, jeez.
Here's the video of it right here. Very exciting play.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't see this until this morning.
Yeah, well, they kind of cut it off in the at the end of the broadcast. Obviously, they didn't want to keep re-showing it. That's the actual play. But at the end of it, he runs into the wall, and then there's all the fans basically that are in front of his face
give him a
the middle finger, and then somebody throws a full beer in his face.
You know, I used to get so bummed out about that, but I've just come to terms with people that go to NFL games, especially on a Sunday night.
There it is there, yeah.
Sunday night after hours in the parking lot. I actually think, this is a weird thing to say. It's obviously inappropriate. I think the players now are so used to it, so used to that bad behavior that if you look at the chief players, they were like taunting back. Like this has become, it's almost like international soccer. The players are so numb to it now, they almost play along. It's so disgusting.
Right. Well, I mean, this is why when we were talking about the McGregor-Habib thing, I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. I just don't feel bad for you. Like, maybe I'm jaded, but like, this is what you deal with. This is part of the territory. People are going to yell at you. And I think this is incredibly disrespectful and inappropriate.
Yeah.
And those fans should not be allowed back. You don't pay money to get to assault players. If you did that in the street, that would be assault. You could be arrested for assault. You can't throw things at people.
And again, it's awful. But I'm seeing this now. This is just how they treat players in the end zone. It's unbelievable.
Oh, no, it's disgusting. But this is what I'm saying. This is why. Now, if he climbs into the stands and starts throwing haymakers, and not all of those people are going to be able to, I would guess that none of them could take a punch from Tyreek Hill, if I'm assuming it correctly. Then what? It's on him. Nobody's going to say, oh, well, the fans, they were inappropriate. It's not right. And I know a lot of people were bringing up his domestic violence past before.
Well, regardless of that.
One has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah, no.
And don't try and pitch me with, oh, the fans were real. Oh, yeah, I'm sure those fans in that moment, Tyreek Hill running up to them were like, yeah, this guy's domestic violence past. Let me pay him back by throwing a beer in his face.
I think this has happened forever. I think there's more cameras now and we see it all.
Oh, of course.
And I also think you don't see.
I think it's probably worse before.
I just think what's happened when I watch sports and what has happened, players make so much money now. It has given a lot of people the belief that they can go into a stadium and, hey, you're worth $100 million.
Yeah, I can behave however I want to.
I can be an absolute nightmare to you as long as I don't touch you. Is that the wealth of the players has given a green light to some unruly fans to be completely obnoxious. I watched that this morning, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the way it is now.
Well, and no way am I pinning this all on Boston fans. Like, this happens everywhere. So before everyone starts flipping out, it's not because of that. It's just inappropriate. It's not respectful behavior. So Jalen Ramsey has never been one to shy away from trash talk, especially after he told GQ 2 months ago, Dak Prescott, he's good, he's all right, he's okay.
Yeah.
And he had a chance to put his money where his mouth is, and the Jags defense came up pretty short yesterday, 40-7 loss. So let's take a listen to Ramsey after the game.
How much of a shock is it that this defense comes out and gets their ass beat, considering the talent you guys have?
I don't know, man.
You guys have played together a lot as a secondary. How do you kind of explain some of the lone assignments that you guys had early in this game?
That was fun.
Coach said that he felt like it wasn't an effort issue, it was a miscommunication issue. Do you agree with that?
I don't know.
If you're going to be cocky, you got to stand up.
Obviously posed today.
I don't know.
This defense usually plays with a lot of swagger and confidence. What needs to happen to kind of get you guys motivated?
I don't know.
See, so Jalen Ramsey wants to talk trash, but then he doesn't want to answer any questions. You can't have it both ways, dude.
Yeah, you
can't be the biggest.
Have to give them some credit.
If you're going to be the biggest trash talker in the world, then this is Jalen Ramsey not understanding the game. Like, dude, this is why there are legends in this game, and right now you're just a talented player. Because the legends get it. That's the territory. If you talk trash. By the way, this is also a cautionary tale why you shouldn't talk trash.
Well, I have no problem with him talking trash, and especially his position kind of lends to, hyping things up, and they have the ability to talk trash and stir the pot a little bit. But then at the end, if you lose the way you did to the Cowboys with the 30th ranked scoring offense in the
stand
NFL,
up and take it.
You gotta give them some credit. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Finally, yesterday was James Conner's last game as the Steelers starting back, so he got a send off. He ran 19 times for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he's still running well. And here's Ben Roethlisberger with a little joke after the game.
And James, I thought he was a bowling ball today. He was all over the place. What a great game. But I know it's his last game for us, so because Le'Veon's coming back. But I thought he did well in his last one.
Yeah, so they have a bye this week, and Le'Veon has said he's going to come back before weeks 7.
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers look fine. I think Cincinnati at home is a tough out, and Andy Dalton shrunk. And I thought that at the end of the game, when they were driving down at the end of the game, I had full confidence they were going to score, even though they were on the road. Cincinnati's got real good defensive personnel. I think the Steelers are in good shape. I don't think they're great in the secondary, but I watch that team, and I'm like, they're good. They're going to get Le'Veon Bell here real quick.
Well, they did a good job of terrifying all of us in the month of September because it was looking like a real disaster. But, yeah, I mean, look, the Steelers are a consistent franchise, so it's not like I thought that everything was going to fall apart. Le'Veon was eventually going to come back.
Yep.
And look, James Conner's running great. So it's obviously Le'Veon is better. It's going to change things, but it's going to be interesting when he comes back.
Yeah.
That dynamic.
Last couple of weeks, though, they've gone up against good, talented teams. They dominated one, and they've went on the road. That's a rivalry game on the road. Good team.
And Cincinnati's been playing great.
Great. So that's a huge win for Pittsburgh. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
By the
News.
way, I do believe fans have always been rough on players, especially when you're close at the NFL or you're in the outfield wall. But I do think the elevation of wealth to players makes some fans think more than ever, hey, you can take a little beer on you. Let's talk to a Hall of Famer in our studio, 6-time All-Pro defensive back Rod Woodson, Super Bowl champ, Defensive Player of the Year in the 90s. Okay, I know at some point in your career,